This particular presentation is something, you guys, I'm very passionate about. Inappropriate elimination are probably the most easy thing to address and resolve of all the behavior problems. Whenever I have a client that calls me up and wants to do a behavior consultation because of this issue, I do cartwheels because the results, usually the percentages of issues that are resolved are so much greater with this particular problem. And I know that many of you, or most all of you, are involved with rescue in some place, and this is the number one reason they're surrendered. Yeah. Right? Yeah. That's right. So what I'm hoping is, and you probably have heard a lot of these different recommendations before, but perhaps maybe there's going to be a different twist. Because I always say I'm in the business to get myself out of business. I would love it if I never saw another behavior problem again. I mean, how wonderful life would be if that was the case. So I would love to be able to put us involved with rescue organizations, to be able to educate clients about this issue. So you never have those cats come to your shelter. And so this is kind of one of the reasons why I was asked to do this presentation is how can we help you, shelter and rescue organizations, be in a position where you can educate others. And then we'll also talk about how do we actually deal with this problem in the shelter environment. So everybody's in agreement this is a real common problem? Okay, good. Well, that's right, and that's it is the most common problem I see in my practice. You know, and like I said, it's usually something that can be resolved. So it's very, very, it's something I think we can work together to get to that point. So we're going to talk about a couple different things today. One is it's kind of a general information. We'll talk about the difference between inappropriate elimination and urine spraying or marking, okay, because there is a difference. And again, I apologize if you've heard this before, but I felt it was worthwhile to make sure we review some of these things. We'll talk about what are some of the potential causes of this issue, and then talk about it kind of in general, resolving behavior problems and kind of how I look at it. We'll go ahead and do diagnosis and treatment, and then we'll talk about how do we apply this to a shelter environment. Okay, so let's go ahead. Some kind of general information. What's the definition of inappropriate elimination or elimination disorders? I kind of hate the thought of inappropriate elimination because it's not really inappropriate for the cat, right? It's inappropriate when they share their house with us. So, but that's the literature does. They describe inappropriate urination or elimination is when they are urinating outside the litter box. Urine spraying is the same thing, but it's usually, and we'll get into the differences, but it's usually because they're trying to mark their territory and things like that too. But the key is they're going ahead and they're eliminating urinating or defecating outside the litter box. Pretty easy to remember that, right? How widespread is this? Well, as we just point out, you guys, it's huge. The most common behavior problem that we see in cats. It's a huge thing. And there was a study done at the University of Pennsylvania that had pointed out that between 40 to 75% of the cats that were presented with behavior problems there at their clinic, this was the issue that they were dealing with. And I think that's very reasonable. I would say in my practice, probably a good 75% of the cases that I see have to do with usually inappropriate urination, but sometimes defecation too. And again, it's just it almost always can be resolved, and it does affect, obviously, that human-animal bond. And that's why you're seeing so many animals surrendered for this. And what a tragedy that is, because this is probably the most common behavior problem that we can address and resolve. So.